Hello, I'm Deb, and I want to talk to you today about your brain. So, once we understand something about ourselves better, we can cope with ourselves better. And when we can anticipate what's going on in our bodies, our minds, and realize and recognize what is happening, we don't feel so lost or alone. Um, with our reactions and our behaviors and our feelings and stuff. So, this information really helped me when I learned about the physiological functionings of my brain and how that relates to my thoughts and how I act. It was like a huge light bulb that went on for me, and I was able to show myself a lot more compassion because I knew where I was coming from. So, not to get super complicated because I'm no neuroscientist, but to talk to you about the four parts of the brain that really relate to us being mindful and for us to respond, tune in, and be the people who we really are and who we want to be instead of reacting and then feeling bad and then wishing we did something else and things that we get caught up in sometimes. So there are the four parts of the brain are I have a diagram in the mindful movement program that I teach grown-ups, adults, educators, parents, and children and teenagers has this in it. But this is a really nice, I'm going to hold it up for you. This is a really nice, easy to see brain. So that here is now the labeled one is the other diagram. And I can email this to you if you want it, okay? So it shows you the prefrontal cortex, the cerebellum, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. Those four things. And the beauty of this, if you make copies of this, you and your child can color it, cut it out, make a puzzle. So it really reinforces these parts of our brain that we all have and that we all can either really thrive through or succumb to, depending on how we're doing there and what we really tend as far as tending to our brain. So you can make Play-Doh molds out of the different four parts of your brain, anything that can help you and your children remember these, and then you can relate to yourself much better. So the prefrontal cortex is right behind the forehead. It's right here. And to bring that prefrontal cortex online so that we have executive function, that is managing emotions, managing our thoughts, biting our tongue instead of lashing out when we get emotional. Okay, that is one main mindful manifestation that the prefrontal cortex has, the control center of our brain. The amygdala is the emotional part of our brain, and it is in charge of the stress hormone coming on, and it's in charge of those fiery reactions. And we need that. We need our emotions, and all of our emotions are okay and they're valid as long as we accept them, recognize them, and then don't let those emotions control us because that's when we become reactive. And that's when we have to sometimes apologize for our behavior later because we're too emotional. But if we keep it in balance where we feel that emotion that comes along, and then the prefrontal cortex comes online and manages so that we take a breath, we walk away, we take a drink of water, we go for a walk. When that stress is coming on, then you know you've got a really good balance. One technique you can use and you can teach to your children and your friends is putting one hand on your the back bottom of your skull, which is maybe sort of nestling and comforting, connecting with your amygdala, and then putting one hand on your forehead, and then just breathe here. And you just feel the container of your hands holding your emotions and your managing center so that you can connect with self and respond. So that's actually a cognitive behavioral therapy kind of tool that you can use to really settle yourself down. And if you want, and if a child allows you, you can settle your child down and just realize holding on to the emotions, holding and bringing back online the prefrontal cortex and managing your emotions to be your best self. So those are the two. The other two are the cerebellum, which is has to do with mobility, like standing on one foot or just walking or even talking, the mobility of our lips. And that's great because we want our mindful movement and mindful walking to be a part of our mindfulness practice. So that's the cerebellum. And then the hippocampus, and that's our memory bank. And when our emotions are calm, and we settle them from stress, bringing our prefrontal cortex online, then our hippocampus can retain that which we are trying to learn, listen to someone who is talking to us so that we're a good listening friend, and then recalling information. So it helps our memory banks work. It's so much smoother when we can manage the brain function to the best of our ability. So I will review that later, but if you want on another video, but if you want to just review that yourself and talk about it, teach your parent that if you're watching this as a kid, or you play a game, make a creative project out of the different parts of your brain and what they resemble. This will help you forgive yourself for getting emotional because you know the amygdala is very, very practiced in feeling stress emotions and then really appreciating your prefrontal cortex when it comes online and you did take a breath instead of lashing out or saying something mean or whatever it is. So that's a little bit of a nutshell of your brain. And maybe you can tell me some creative ideas that you can take from this knowledge that you're learning today and how you're going to make a game out of it or a creative expression or something like that. So I hope that helps you understand yourself and your brain a little bit more. And I will see you next time.